I see that today, no, I see that on March 23rd, that would be Monday, you filed something called Notice and Demand Facts filed by Shelley Flaherty with Loren Court Reporting. Are you claiming to be Shelley Flaherty with Loren Court Reporting,
No,
sir?
I'm not claiming that.
Well, that's the only thing I see that's entitled, uh, and it's not. So, fax transmission sheet, date March 23rd, 26, to the clerk of the District Court, Butler County, State of Kansas versus Gary.
Before this courtroom even finds its rhythm, things spiral into confusion, defiance, and a legal strategy that rarely ends well. A defendant refuses to identify himself in a straightforward way, challenges the court's very authority, and insists he's not the person being charged, but rather a beneficiary of a trust. Meanwhile, the judge is forced to navigate through layers of unusual arguments, jurisdiction challenges, and outright resistance. What starts as a routine hearing quickly turns into a legal chess match, where one side is playing by established rules and the other is rewriting them entirely. The real question is, can this strategy actually work, or is it about to backfire in a big way?
Michael Pelosa from Shelley Flaherty, Loren Court Reporting, Cape Coral, Florida.
Yeah, that's my notice and demand to the court.
Well, that's 15 pages reportedly by this Miss Flaherty, not you.
I signed it.
Then why did you make demand? Okay. All right, go ahead. What do you want me to consider in this document that doesn't seem to have any Kansas authority in it, does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, well, you make your argument and show me where that is. Tell me what Kansas law needs applied and how. Go ahead.
I'm challenging territorial jurisdiction. Is the prosecution ready to provide ownership of the locus and quo of this matter at 114 Highway 54 on Andover?
He
Does
doesn't
this,
have to show that he owns that.
no, the state has to show that. I don't even see the state here, ma'am.
Okay. That request is denied. Next item.
I reject that premise.
Noted.
Okay, I'm here by special appearance and I reserve all my rights and I waive none of them. I am the beneficiary and priority lien holder via a Kansas UCC lien registration number 5676382 over the defendant, the Gary Michael Pelosa Social Security Trust, registration number, last four digits ending in 0762. And as a beneficiary and priority lien holder, I have the authority to order you as trustee to dismiss and discharge this court matter case immediately and release my collateral, the defendant, Gary Michael Pelosa, from the custody of Butler County Jail to the streets immediately.
Now, are you Gary Michael Pelosi or are you someone else?
I'm the beneficiary. Gary Michael Pelosa is a trust.
All right. If Gary Michael Pelosi fails to appear, I'm going to have to issue a warrant for his arrest, but that's kind of silly since you're sitting in the county jail. What's your motion or request at this time, sir? To dismiss the case?
I want to process. There's no jurisdiction in this matter, ma'am. There's nothing in the record that showed that this court has jurisdiction. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution, which you said you swore an oath to, states those cases in which a state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. You cannot sit here being employed by the state of Kansas and judge a case that your employer, the state of Kansas, pays you for. That's a conflict of interest. Are you a member of the bar in good standing, man?
Sir, at this time, I deny your allegations that
Is
I
your
do not
bar
have.
number 12910?
Sir, at this time, your motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction is denied, and you can take that up further if you appeal this with the Kansas Supreme Court.
You cannot you cannot deny a motion. Subject matter can be challenged at any time, ma'am, and
I have jurisdiction, sir, over the subject matter.
there is no subject matter. What is the subject matter? There is no contract.
Denied. Let's move on. What's your
You
next
can't.
point?
You can't do that, ma'am.
I can, I
You're
have.
you're violating your oath of office without any authority, and I have the sheriffs here that can make a citizen arrest to any judge that violates their oath of office. You're violating your oath of office. You do not have jurisdiction. The Constitution says so at Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2.
We'll let the appellate courts decide that, sir. Let's move on. What's the next point?
We don't need it. You can't move on without jurisdiction.
I can and I will. You don't have anything else you want to say before we start this trial?
What trial? You don't have jurisdiction to have a trial.
All right, Mr. Baca, do you want to call your first witness?
I can if the court's ready to proceed, Your Honor.
I'm ready to proceed unless the defendant has anything legitimately he wants to have heard. Doesn't sound like he does.
Your Honor,
Please.
the state at this time is ready to proceed and would call Sergeant Akers to the stand. Were you on duty in your current employment capacity on January 21st, 2026?
Yes, I was.
And on that day, around 2040 hours, do you recall your location?
Yes, I do.
What was that location?
I was parked running stationary traffic enforcement at Highway 54, mile marker 232, which is thereabouts the intersection of Highway 54 and Santa Fe Lake Road, Augusta, Kansas.
And then what, if anything, did you observe at that location at that time?
I was parked facing westbound in a section of the roadway, which is the median, which is clear from traffic. And at that time frame, I observed a vehicle on my rear radar that was traveling at 45 miles per hour, which was also westbound.
Okay. And do you know the posted speed on that particular roadway?
I do. It's 65 miles per hour.
And so your testimony is this vehicle seemed to be driving slower than the posted speed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Once you made this observation, what did you do next?
And it's strange and odd. And at this point, I was determined to follow the vehicle so that way I could see if there was anything wrong with the driver and or the vehicle or any other kind of investigation that need merited.
And so you started following this vehicle at this point, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as you were following this vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe?
At one point, it actually slowed down to 22 miles per hour. At this point, I was able to get up behind the vehicle to attempt to get the tag off of the vehicle so I could continue trying to see what was going on.
And were you able to get any information from that tag?
I actually wasn't. When I had first ran the tag, I ran it on my own, which I had suspected maybe it was a Missouri tag. I could make out the letters, but there was something covering over the state, so I wasn't exactly sure of the state registration. But I had ran it, which I suspected was through Missouri, on my mobile data terminal, or MDT, which has NCIC access, and I had a return that said that it was or canceled, removed.
Okay. And so after you made this observation about the tag, what did you do at this point?
I wanted to confirm and be doubly sure. At this point, it was already a violation based off the NCIC hit that it was illegal registration, but I wanted to be absolutely positive before taking an enforcement action. So I continued to follow the vehicle and attempt to identify any which way that I could confirm if it was a Missouri plate.
Okay. And so at some point, were you able to confirm the tag?
I was.
Okay.
Go ahead.
At some point, did you attempt to stop this vehicle?
I did.
Can you describe that process as you stopped the vehicle?
At the time in which I continued to follow it, it had driven all the way to the Andover Quick Shop, which is located at 114, I believe, West Highway 54 in Andover, Kansas. As the vehicle was turning into the parking lot, I was able to clearly see the license plate said Missouri over the top. At this point, I was able to confirm not only what I had seen, but also what I had checked through dispatch, that it was truly a canceled, revoked, or removed license plate. And that's at this point when the vehicle pulled into a stall is where I made my traffic stop or initiated contact.
So the vehicle had stopped before you turned on any lights or siren, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And once the vehicle stopped, what did you do at that point?
As the vehicle stopped, I recalled the driver, a white male, exited the driver's seat. I exited the driver or my vehicle to make contact with it to let him know that I was actually conducting a traffic stop. And the reason why was that the license plate on his vehicle didn't return valid.
And did this particular driver have a response to that?
He explained to me that he was not necessarily the owner of the car, but that he was using the car and he was transporting the car from its place where it was purchased in Missouri back to a location in Kansas. I don't exactly recall where. He also explained to me that he was doing this on the behalf of somebody else.
And do you recall what that name and date of birth was that he gave you at that time?
He gave me the name Garrison Michael with the date of birth that the driver gave me was March 12th of 1958. And again, identified himself as Garrison Michael and gave himself or explained that his short name was Gary.
And did you receive any kind of response from your mobile data terminal?
I did not, actually.
What exactly did the terminal indicate to you, if anything?
I wasn't able to get a return through Kansas for an individual by the name of Garrison Michael. Actually, there was another Garrison Michael that was since deceased. However, I wasn't able to find exacting information as provided to me by the driver.
Did you also check the name along with the date of birth you were provided?
I did.
And did the date of birth help you give any further information?
It did eventually.
Okay. After you received this indication from your terminal, what did you do at that point?
I met back with the driver to try to confirm the information. At this point, I had already suspected maybe there wasn't full information that the individual was giving me, or I even suspected at this point that the individual was giving me fictitious information. I asked the individual or the driver a series of questions about their history or physical identity, which included addresses in which they've lived, states in which they've lived, telephone numbers, places in which they've lived, people which they've lived with. Based out of this information, I learned that the driver indicated he was from an address in Wichita, in addition to having previously lived in Texas. In addition to that, there was a name in common with a girlfriend because of the place that he was recently living at in Platte, Missouri. I used this information and continued to search through law enforcement databases and was able to find Gary Michael Pelosa with the same date of birth with exacting addresses from both Wichita, Missouri, and Texas, and associations with the same individual he identified as his girlfriend.
Did you ask the defendant about the discrepancies in the name between Garrison Michael and Gary Michael Pelosa?
I did on a couple of times, or a couple of different times during this incident.
What was his response?
The first response was that he didn't recognize who Gary Michael Pelosa was, and in fact, he actually even denied that this was who he was. As time went on through the investigation, in addition to some other things that occurred, to include the discovery of an old Kansas driver's license that bore his image and was found in the vehicle, he eventually explained that he is Gary Michael Pelosa, but he doesn't identify as Gary Michael Pelosa because that's a name that was applied to him. And instead, Garrison Michael is the name that he assumed. And therefore, he believed that he wasn't lying to me by calling himself Garrison Michael and denying that he's Gary Michael Pelosa.
So once you received the information of Gary Michael Pelosa, did you then check that information with the date of birth on your records?
I did.
And did you discover anything in particular about any official state documents at that point?
I did.
What, if anything, did you discover?
I discovered that he had a license through the state of Missouri, which was suspended actually 2 times on the same date, which was in December. In addition to that, I discovered that he had outstanding warrants for his arrest, and I don't exactly recall where those warrants were.
Okay. And did you discover any documentation that related to the state of Kansas?
I did.
And what was that documentation?
That was a Social Security card in a package, a Ziploc bag, along with several financial cards and a Kansas driver's license, which appeared quite old, that was actually concealed inside the fuse box underneath the hood inside the vehicle.
So after you made this check and received this information, what did you do at that point?
I placed the individual, the driver, under arrest.
And what was he placed under arrest for?
Interference, providing a fictitious name of law enforcement, which appeared to be in direct attempt to impede my investigation, in addition to driving while suspended, and for the registration violation.
Okay. And did you inform the defendant that's what he was being placed under arrest for?
I did, and if I might add, also, he was under arrest due to the outstanding warrants. In that conversation, we discussed the reason why that we were having such a mix-up or a miscommunication, or that there was contradicting and contrary information that was being given out. He explained that he did not, one, recognize that he had a Social Security number because that number was assigned to him through the Social Security Administration, so therefore he didn't declare ownership of it. And then even in addition to that, he did not declare ownership of any license issued through any state due to the fact that he did not agree to the terms in which the contractual relationship was constructed between him and whichever issuing state it was. At that point, it was a determination of whether or not it was going to be allowed to remain, which was largely consent out of the ownership of the store, which was the Andover Quick Shop, and in addition to the owner of the vehicle, which at the time, or at this time, I don't recall his exact name. But I was in conversation with the owner of the vehicle and the store to determine if the vehicle could remain there. At the end of that, that's what was determined, was that we would leave the car there with the keys with the store clerk, and then the owner would make arrangements to have the car collected. And during the stop, thereabouts the time where I was still attempting to confirm the identity of the driver, I had requested a canine to come to the vehicle to conduct an open air sniff for the odor of narcotics. That canine deployment was conducted, which resulted positive for the odor of narcotics. Thus, at that point, we initiated a probable cause search.
And so what, if anything, did you discover in the vehicle during that search?
We discovered numerous documents to both Garrison Michael and Gary Michael Pelosa. We discovered several miscellaneous items, and then we also discovered underneath the hood, that's where we had discovered the license, the Social Security card, in addition to a large Ziploc bag full of unused syringes or hypodermic needles. In addition to that, found an amount of green leafy botanical substance, which I identified as marijuana. After having discovered the items themselves, I ended up advising the defendant of his rights according to Miranda prior to questioning him about the ownership of them. Of course, which out of turn, I had previously testified that this is where I had learned from from the driver that his position toward his driver's license and the Social Security card. But in addition to that, he denied ownership over the marijuana, but indicated that he had used marijuana to help him sleep that night before.
And so he didn't claim ownership of the substance that you believe to be marijuana, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so is there anything else with this investigation in particular that you feel is relevant and the court should know about today?
No, sir.
Your Honor, at this point, that's all the questions I have for Sergeant Akers at this time.
Right, Mr. Pelosi, do you have any cross-examination questions?
Ma'am, I'm still challenging subject matter jurisdiction. It can't be waived and it must be proven until it is proven the court cannot go on, but I will ask the officer questions under necessity only. Mr. Akers, when you were following the vehicle in question, did you ever at any time put your lights on?
No, I did not.
Okay, so how did you end up approaching the defendant?
As previously testified, as the vehicle continued westbound on 54 and eventually pulled into the parking lot at the Andover Quick Shop, I had turned in behind the vehicle. At this time, I had turned my lights on and conducted the traffic stop.
You didn't, well, was he driving the car when you stopped the car, or did you stop the car at all?
Yes, he was driving the car when I stopped the car.
So you,
At this point, what you're seeing is a classic courtroom clash between established law and what's often referred to as sovereign citizen style arguments. The defendant is trying to separate himself from his legal identity, claiming he's not the person named in the charges, but instead a beneficiary of some kind of legal trust. Now, here's the reality. Courts across the United States have consistently rejected these types of arguments. Judges don't recognize this distinction between a living man and a legal entity in criminal cases. From the court's perspective, if you're physically present and tied to the charges, jurisdiction applies. Notice how the judge stays focused and doesn't get pulled into the philosophical debate. That's intentional. Courts deal in statutes and legal precedent, not personal interpretations of identity. But here's the bigger question for you watching. Do you think the defendant genuinely believes this argument will work? Or is this more of a delay tactic to disrupt the process?
you claim that you didn't have the lights on, but you stopped the car. How is that possible?
In correction to that, I said, as the vehicle pulled into the parking lot is when the time in which I turned my lights on to conduct the traffic stop.
You claim that he had a suspended Missouri driver's license. Do you have any evidence of that? And can you please state the Missouri driver's license number when you find it?
Let him give one answer at a time.
I have, if I can offer a correction to my testimony, that the defendant does not have a Missouri driver's license, but it had one through Kansas. On December 14th of 2022, had been issued a suspension for failure to answer citation, which was issued through Missouri.
So the defendant doesn't have a Missouri driver's license.
No.
So what other things that you may be wrong at in your reporting then? Isn't it true that did you ever talk to the owner or the trustee of the car?
I talked to an individual that was identified as the owner, correct? Yes.
Well, he was identified as a trustee, wasn't he?
The vehicle was belonging to a trust, and this is the individual who I was explained by you was the owner of the vehicle.
Okay, if you're talking to me as me, I never said the trustee was the owner. Because the trustee
All
is
right, you're either gonna wait and testify or you're gonna cross-examine the witness now soon. But you're not gonna start testifying in the middle of this cross-examination.
Was the discussion you had with the driver, was it from his window or was he walking into the store?
As I recall, my initial contact was when you exited the driver's seat and I met with you at the back door of the back passenger driver side door of the vehicle.
Did you say hey or talk to the driver to keep him from stopping from walking into the store?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so he wasn't aware you were even there until you said, hey, I want to talk to you for a minute. Is that correct?
I can't speak to where the point in which you identified that I was there and trying to make contact with you.
Okay, so when you talked to the trustee, did he give you evidence that the car was properly registered, and did not he show you anything, send you on the phone that proved the receipt that the car was just registered?
Yes,
Mr. Pelosi, excuse me, Mr. Pelosi, when you talk to the trustee, do you mean yourself or someone else?
The trustee of the trust of the car that was registered in. That's what I'm talking about.
Is that
the-
okay?
the car is registered to a trust and he talked to the trustee because the driver,
Right.
the driver had given him the number and the trustee had sent the receipt of the registration.
Okay, stop,
Um,
you're testifying. So you don't mean that you are the trustee of the vehicle? You're not asking him that kind of
No, I'm
question?
not the
Okay,
trustee.
that's fine, go ahead.
I apologize, sir. Can you please restate your question?
Did the trustee show you any evidence that he had registered that automobile?
And so into clarification, the individual that you told me to speak with as the owner, as you've stated at this point, the trustee, was a guy by the name of Carl Long. And I forget the trust or the name of the trust in which the vehicle was declared to have been ownership through. However, Mr. Long did send me records of a receipt, through an image of a receipt that he had paid for registration through the state of Missouri for the vehicle.
Did the plates have current, up-to-date stickers saying that the plate was registered?
I don't recall as far as like the exact stickers, but I recall that the registration was just recently purchased.
Okay, so now, if it was recently purchased, then how can it be not registered?
I don't know that I have the answer for that.
Did you explain to the driver what you found on your computer when you ran the tag?
Yes, I did.
And what came up on your computer?
That the registration was not valid, canceled, removed.
So you saw a receipt that showed that the car had just been registered, but now you're saying that your computer says it was removed.
That's correct. There was
Do you remember the date that was on that receipt of the registration?
No, I do not.
Would it help me if I helped you recollect that was registered just the day before?
Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask the court to have the cross-examination of Sergeant Akers continue to be questions rather than testimony by the defendant. I would object to that question.
Sustained.
Okay, did the registration show a date of the registration being just the day before?
I apologize. I don't have that in front of me. I don't know.
So you don't recall that how did he show you the receipt? Was it sent to you on your phone?
Yes, it was sent to my department issued cell phone.
But you don't recall the date of registration?
All I can recall is that it was before the date of the stop.
Okay.
I can't specify to the date in which it was because I don't remember.
Okay. And you don't have your phone on, you just check that, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. Was there consent given for the dog to sniff out the car?
No, there wasn't.
Did you get consent from the trustee?
As in Mr. Long?
Yes.
No.
Did you have a warrant to search the car?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you just went ahead and searched it anyway.
I searched the vehicle based out of prerequisite case law established in the state of Kansas, which predicates our ability to execute a probable cause search based on a canine deployment, which was done in accordance to established case law.
Okay, what was the probable cause to put a dog on the car?
I didn't need probable cause to deploy the canine.
So the canine operator doesn't need a warrant?
Not in this case, no.
Okay, I have no more questions for this witness. I would like to call the state of Kansas to the stand.
Hold up. You haven't gotten, it's still the state's evidence. Mr. Baca, any further evidence? Further witnesses?
Your Honor, I have no redirect for Sergeant Akers. I have no further witnesses. I just am going to ask to admit the certified driving record on screen share.
Very well, and do you have a KBI lab report to do the same with?
Your Honor, I do not have a KBI lab report to do the
All
same.
right. All right. Do we have field tests?
Your Honor, there was a field test that was performed, and I can ask Sergeant Akers about that, or if the court would like to inquire.
I'll just have you do it.
Your Honor, there was within the affidavit that was prepared and filed by Sergeant Akers, the buds that were found in the vehicle were field tested and provided a positive result for THC, according to his affidavit.
That's for this witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you go ahead and ask him about that to get that on the record?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Akers, did you perform a field test on any of the items that were taken from the vehicle?
I did.
What items did you perform the field test on? Can you describe them?
Specifically, as previously testified, as the green botanical buds, which I suspected was marijuana that had been found inside of a yellow grocery stack, stuffed into an air intake underneath the hood in the engine compartment of the vehicle.
And do you recall the result of that field test that you performed on those buds?
Yes, I do. It resulted positive for THC or tetrahydrocannabinol.
And do you recall what the field test unit was that you used?
I don't exactly recall the test unit. That being said, it was a Lynn Pavey tester.
Okay. No further questions on this matter for Sergeant Akers, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Pelosa, any follow-up with what the officer just inquired about, the test?
So you're saying you don't have any test results to show to the court?
No, sir. The test itself is kind of a one and done, or so to speak. And it involves the use of some acidic material. It's an individual test kit and it's disposed of.
So you're saying you have no evidence to show the court?
That test kit was disposed of, yes.
Okay, I rest.
Mr. Baca, it's up to you to rest because we're representing your.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for Sergeant Akers, nor do I have any further witnesses. At this time, the state would move to admit the certified driving record under KSA 6465. It has the proper seal and attestation on it, and I will publish that if the court does accept that into evidence.
The court will accept that into evidence.
As the judge delivers the final ruling, everything comes into focus. And this is where legal reality overrides strategy. Despite the defendant's repeated challenges to jurisdiction and identity, the court bases its decision on evidence, testimony, and established law. The key takeaway here is simple. Refusing to acknowledge your legal identity or disputing jurisdiction without valid legal grounds doesn't stamp a case. It often makes things worse. The judge methodically explains each guilty finding, especially emphasizing how providing a false name, even partially, can be seen as intentional obstruction. Ironically, the defendant's own testimony ends up strengthening the prosecution's case, particularly on the marijuana charge. That's a critical lesson. What you say in court can and will be used to fill in gaps the prosecution might have missed. In the end, the sentence reflects a mix of penalties, probation, and time served, showing how quickly things can escalate when courtroom strategy goes off track. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this outcome could have been different if the defendant had taken a more traditional legal approach? If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.